All right. Well, Craig, it's that time of the podcast. You get up on that soapbox and you give us your good, your bad, and your ugly.
Okay, so yeah, we're gonna take things out of the realm maybe of the golf tournament here. We're gonna maybe get a little bit more controversial than we do sometimes, but good, the bad, and the ugly this week. The good. Just before we started recording here, PGA of America just tweeted that the Trump Bedminster will not be hosting the 22 PGA Championship. Eamon Lynch of Golf Week had written a really good article about how the golf world needs to, not be a safe refuge for Trump once this whole presidency.
I read that one. It was a good read. Yeah.
Once this whole presidency debacle is over, but in there he's got a great quote, and this is before they announced it. But the odds the 22 PGA Championship will happen as scheduled in New Jersey are about as good as the chances of you or I winning it. Now, I don't know how he knows my game so well, but he definitely pegged it because, the next day, PGA of America just announced that they have decided not to host it there.
What do you think if you're like Justin Thomas reading that? You're like, you don't even know who's reading it, sucker. Like,
yeah. Well, Rory's reading that. He's like, well, I got a pretty good shot, actually.
Yeah, well,
so we'll see.
It's interesting that it's as close as it is. Like it's next year's, which I don't know how far in advance. I think they typically have these things lined up for close to 5 years. Or more.
So it was 2014 when it was awarded. And the so some of the articles I was reading was saying essentially this decision has been made or close to being made for a while, but because of the repercussions of announcing this decision, it has not been something, I think they essentially have been waiting until post-presidency to do this. But now, obviously, is the time to be announcing it with everything that's going on in the U.S.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see short notice what course this ends up going to.
The one thing I noticed on Twitter, the toxic place that Twitter can be sometimes, is a lot of the replies to that tweet were like, "You just lost a viewer," or like, "Well, I'm not gonna tune in anymore." Like, and the same thing that was happening when Kaepernick was kneeling or people were kneeling. Like, I really don't think the PGA is that concerned about you, that single viewer, that much. Like, and I also think you actually will watch it.
Or it's like that 55-year-old woman who has never watched a moment of golf. Like, you've lost a fan. Were you watching really that closely?
Yeah. Well, not that I've been saying that, but if I was, I could just imagine myself. How's Tiger doing anyways? Okay, well, maybe I'll just tune in for a few minutes here.
Okay, so that's the good. Moving on to the bad. So, and this one probably is a little bit controversial because these are complicated situations, but Gary Player and Annika Sorenstam accepted the Presidential Medal of Freedom. It was the day after the riots.
Yes.
And call it an attempted coup, whatever you want to call it, but it's the day after everything happened in the U.S. Capitol. It was done, from what I understand, it was done closed doors and was not publicized, but it still is really just a bad look to be accepting a Presidential Medal of Freedom from someone who's just potentially tried to lead a coup of the country. I don't know if we need to get any further in depth. I also understand that those type of things, does rejecting it really do anything? Does that,
I mean, I have a couple of questions. You guys are the smart ones. So, what is the Presidential Medal of? And as an ignorant Canadian, I'll preface it by saying that, what does the Medal of Freedom really mean for these two people?
You get to take it around, and it's like a medal that you are, and no one can do anything. You're free. It's an honor.
Interesting that they're both non-Americans for one.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up as well. Yeah.
Essentially, it's just a civic honor, from what I understand. I don't think there's anything beyond that goes along with it.
You definitely don't get the "sir" in front of your name.
No.
That's true.
You're not knighted.
You're not knighted. Now, Gary Player, actually, I just did a little bit of a deeper dive into him. It's not the first time he's dealt with controversy. And I was totally unaware of this because, we're a generation removed from that. But, he's a South African. He comes from a generation in South Africa that, they went through very controversial times.
You're just going right into it.
Yeah. But so apparently, like, Australians, hated Gary Player back in the 70s, 80s, and they would there was one time on a 72nd hole when he was putting, I want to say it was to tie for a tournament, that someone said you're not welcome here, you racist, or something like that. I don't remember what the exact thing was, but it's a tough situation to be in because he was essentially supported early on in his golf career by this system that it wasn't until much later that the total public opinion had shifted against the apartheid regime in South Africa, and he actually came out against it in the 80s. It's complicated. It's a complicated world if you're of his generation, I would think, in South Africa.
Oh, absolutely.
Speaking of complicated, so last one, we had maybe hinted at it earlier, but Justin Thomas dropping a homophobic slur after 3-putting on a green, picked up on the mic, picked up on, gets broadcast on the main broadcast on Golf Channel. It's an ugly look. It's one of those things that, we've spoken about it, that it's the kind of thing that back when I was a young teenager, I would say stupid things like this, but you grow up very quickly and you realize that these are not harmless things you say and so on and so forth. And so it's a bit of it's not a bit of it. It's an absolute egg on the face moment for him as a 27-year-old to be saying that. He's very PR savvy, I think. He's a very charismatic guy. I think he's well-intentioned. It doesn't seem like there's anything beyond that. And I think he did a good job. I don't know if it was his decision and his insistence that he got on the broadcast on Saturday after he had finished playing. I don't know at that point until he had finished. I don't know if he even knew it was picked up on the mic. But regardless, I think he has responded to it well. And I don't think that we tar and feather people for mistakes. I think that it's more, if people are aware they've made mistakes and they actually genuinely grow from them, then I think that's a good thing. But yeah, it's an ugly moment, and it's definitely an egg on your face moment for JT.
Yeah, and as he mentioned, there is hopefully a learning moment for him. And I think you guys would agree with this. There's mics everywhere, and you expect these golfers to be mad, be frustrated, to drop swear words or whatever it is that get picked up on hot mic. It happens with all live sports. But there are certain words that really do affect people and are derogatory to groups of people. And there are so many other words that you can use
and that's the thing.
Your frustration.
I have no issue, and maybe this is because I don't have kids that I'm watching golf with, but I have no issue in a swear words. I usually find that kind of entertaining. It's just people need to learn how to swear without it being a derogatory against other people. Yeah,
there's a wealth of other humorous
creative
things
with it,
you
even.
Can say that are probably better suited. But
listen to Terrell Hatton, maybe. I don't know. He's probably got lots he could teach you.
Yeah. I think my favorite one that I ever heard, I was golfing with a guy, he sliced an OB off his drive. He says, sheep shit. And there was something about his delivery. I almost dropped to the ground. I was laughing so hard. Anyways, I digress. Well, anything more on that, guys, or?
A lot happened this week.
No, I think Craig, maybe next week we'll get into abortion and some other less controversial topics.
Wow. Yeah,
Greg, I think your soapbox was pretty well said there. It's hard to navigate all these issues, and I'm sure there'll be some people that are offended in some ways or other, but it's a discussion. And
yeah, I mean, you know what? the biggest thing to me is JT's got to know he's a role model, and so like I think he's pretty embarrassed about. I think he's genuine in being embarrassed about it, and I think he's genuine and going to be doing a good job of carrying himself in a way that reflects well upon him in the future.